we should move away from talking about features and we should talk about outcomes. Goes back to what are you trying to achieve? Like, don't come and tell me this is how I want to achieve it. I'm not talking about the how. Shifting the focus from the how to the outcome. Because at the end of the day, everybody cares about the outcome. So if we get that right, everybody's happy. Customers happy. You're happy. Your management, customers, leadership, everybody's happy because you were able to achieve that outcome.
How do we find middle ground with the customer and ensure they're still being successful, but they also understand where we're at as a product or as a solution? And how do we keep them bought into us? How do we keep them trusting us that we will deliver on what they need in order to be successful? And there will be customers that have to wait longer than they wanted to, but they're willing to do that because the CSM will have uncovered what it is that they really want to achieve and brought the right people to the table as a result. And because of that, the customer has stronger trust.
Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Toruño, passionate about customer success, a customer success manager, and just like you, I'm still learning about this amazing world of customer success. And what a better way than having these amazing conversations where we all learn from the best out there. And today is not going to be the exception. Now, today we will be focusing on what does success means for our customers, right? Having that North Star, having that path to go towards that and how to make that discovery as well. Why is this so important, right? We recently recorded with Lincoln Murphy where we talk about the power of the desired outcome and going through the goal discovery framework that he explained us. Today, we will have two different guests with two different perspectives as well, going through based on their experience, why is it so important to actually have that success? What does success means for a customer? Because if we don't have that, what are we going to be moving forward? Where are we going to be moving the needle? So that's going to be the conversation for today's episode. Today we have with us Tamara Kempf and Ayman Azmy. Tamara is a regional director of EMEA Customer Success. She brings over 5 years of experience in customer success, backed by a decade in account management, renewals, and sales. Her leadership blends deep customer knowledge with a strong commercial mindset, and we know how customer success is also moving into that direction. And we also have with us Ayman Azmi, is a tech savvy, customer centric leader with 20 plus years of experience spanning from customer services, marketing, pre-sales, and customer success, even building his own brand, helping companies implement customer success as well. What else that we have here? Like 20 plus 15, 35 years of experience in one same place. We're not going to ask for your ages, just saying, okay? But thank you so much for both of you for being here. Ayman, it's actually your second time here in customer success, so happy to see you here again. And both of you, welcome to Customer Success Talks.
Indeed, likewise, Byron. It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me for the first time.
You never know, there might be more times coming as well. So why do you both think that understanding what does success mean for our customers it's important? Why should we as customer success managers should be having those conversations and identifying that?
So I think at the end of the day, there's this huge focus on ensuring that regardless of the size of the company, there's a huge focus on ensuring that customers are able to adopt what they've actually purchased. And customers track that more than ever now. And we've seen this on the ground. Um, and it's more important than ever because if what we're seeing is a very quick ability for them to switch uh, providers, to change solutions, if they haven't quickly seen any success. And reducing contract sizes is another very quick option, or going to RFPs and finding other providers very quickly. There's a lot a lot out there these days. So it's about making sure they're getting what they meant to get when they originally purchased, and then staying with them throughout that. And I know you've got, we'll get into that more later, but I'll hand over to Ayman.
Yeah, thank you, Tam. And adding to what you just mentioned, it's for us to understand, to define what success is. We need to understand what success means to our customers, right? Defining what their objectives, what their pain points, what they've been trying to address. Like it circles back to really understanding why they're investing in this technology, why now, and why in our company itself allows us to kind of like correlate this with how we can define success. If we
Mm.
don't do that, if we don't understand where we're coming from, how can you craft a path for success?
It's so curious to hear how our customers there are involving every single day, and then we also have to match that, right? And I think that, like Tamara, you mentioned, like we need to have we need to go through that success path with them, so that way we can be delivering the value that they're coming for.
Yeah. And I think to Ivan's point, in order to do that, you have to define it. And there will be, generic definitions that we all have, classic things like utilization, but there will also always be the customer's definition, and things are always changing on the customer's end. It could be that people originally involved in purchasing the solution have now left, and now you've got new people in with their own view of the product or the solution, and maybe their own agendas, their own goals. So yeah, it is important to stay with the customer throughout.
When we have that white glove support, right? When we work with enterprise accounts, I think that it's a bit easier to engage with them. But I'm thinking when we work also with mid market, or when we work with I mean tech touch customers, I think that that adds another layer of challenge. What advice would you give someone who's going through these challenges with different skills of managing the portfolio of customers?
So first of all, it's not necessarily different approaching uh, a small to medium sized customer versus approaching an enterprise customer to simply understand their priorities, their objectives, defining success. Because at the end of the day, you just need to listen. It's all about listening,
Hmm.
like really listening, like listening to what they're saying, understanding what they're hinting at, understanding what's being said in between the lines. Because simply customers don't always come out and say, "Here is my definition of success. These are my current priorities." I don't want to say all most of the time or all the time, but sometimes it is hidden in the stories, in their frustrations, in their objectives. So I've always found asking open-ended questions, like for example, what does a win look like to you? Look like for you, or um, how will you know this is working? Although it may sound like a cliche to some,
Mhm.
but it really does open doors to understand the true goals for these customers, right? And then let's not forget how we can follow up to these conversations. So this is important. So it's more um, like peeling an onion, right? So
Mm.
every layer, you get closer to the goal. You get closer to understand what their fundamental objectives, short term and long term, are, right? Surface level needs are usually with like what customers think they want. Like for example, I need this feature. Can this dashboard do X? It's like most of them kind of like, or like not most of them, but like some think about of the how and not the outcome. Now, deeper success drivers are tied to this bigger picture, like growing revenue, saving time, looking like a rock star to your boss, right? So the trick is always ask why until you really hit gold. You know what I mean? It's like you have a customer saying that, okay, we need this integration. Okay, fine, absolutely, we can do that. But why is that important?
Mm.
Then they would come back and say it will save us time. Okay, but then again, why is saving time is important? Why is it critical? So we can focus on closing deals faster. So boom, now you're able to hit goal. So now we understand what their overarching objective is, which is basically chasing efficiency and revenue growth, right? So it's not about that integration. So these things are key and are essential. And it starts by simply listening. Now, what all that I've said, you would apply that on an enterprise, strategic, small and medium sized customer.
Mm,
A variation would be how many times you do it with
mhm.
people. Because, like, as an organization gets bigger, you have much bigger audience, much more stakeholders that you have to reach out to, that you have to relate to. So for me, this is one of the differentiators that I see from approaching different size companies.
It's
Um,
music for my ears. Like everyone listening, just go back and replay because you're giving a framework towards how to make that discovery by just focusing on the discovery side, like listening, but also asking lot of open questions because the more information we receive, the more deep we can go based on what the customer is giving us. Are there any tools that you will recommend, Ayman, for someone to start doing that? Should that be set up in a success plan? Um, should there be specific questions to always ask, or is just something more genuine based on the experience of that CSM?
so it is definitely based on the experience of the CSM, but like for me, because there are so many different tools out there, right? There are so many different practices. I'm a fan of mixing data with good old fashioned conversation. For example, like tools like Health Score, NPS, CSAT survey, all these things are really great, right? And it really can give you a pulse of what the customer sentiment is and where they're heading, right? They give you a number, they can help you track engagement, usage, all these things. But then again, um, numbers can only tell you so much. So pairing that with qualitative feedback by simply asking customers, are you seeing value? Are we making your life easier? These are uh, key factors that would help you kind of like really understand how you can measure success. I've seen in my life customers that they have full deployment of a technology, but they're not using it, or full deployment, but they're using it in a very basic scenarios, and the more advanced scenarios they're doing this manual or they're using different tools. So did we make their lives a lot easier? And I don't really know. I heard that statement from one of my customers in the past saying, so if we turn off the switch on the technology, would the business suffer? That this is and this was a real life example, and this is a great question because, like, as a customer, always ask yourself this: if I flip the switch off, would anybody complain? Would anybody suffer? Would anybody notice? If the answer is no, then that's not success. We haven't really achieved that stage of equilibrium, getting that utmost success, achieving all these objectives. So we always want the answer, a definite yes. We don't even want them to pause when they're thinking of an answer. It's a definite yes. Yes, your business will suffer. Yes, your operations will go down. Yes, productivity will go down. So this is a key indicator for us on what or on how we can measure success.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tamara, I see you're so eager to also give your take on this one, and I'm really also eager to hear what you have to say because it's like what I feel is that it's given the framework of okay, you can have different portfolio of customers, but we first essentially need this listening, this open questions, this curiosity to then see how we can leverage that with a portfolio of customers. So I'm really curious to hear your perspective as well.
Yeah, it's not so different. Also, because Ayman and I come almost from the same the same school. But what I can add to that, um, it is very much a framework. If CSMs follow it, you'll find that they tend to know their customers better. They tend to know um, they have a better and more accurate sense of whether the customer is at risk or not.
Mm,
I think as Iman said, the difference usually comes down to what we've noticed, right, with the people who have to cover more customers. It is about the frequency. It's a mix of frequency and how at risk a customer is, depending on how far out the renewal date is as well. So that will obviously govern where and how they spend their time. And then they'll have you've mentioned success plan, Baron. So obviously for the people that have larger customers, enterprise customers, their success plans will be, they'll have a lot more breadth and a lot more depth in terms of content. With people that have more mid-sized commercial customers and cover many of them, they'll have a similar way that they track success with their customers, but it's a lighter version that can be done less frequently, but still it's like a perfect summary in one page where if anyone asks them, if the customer's renewing that year, where's your customer at? Where's the solution? What do they think of it? Are they happy? And that serves as a guide for them as well. So whether they're talking to a partner or whether they're talking to the actual customer themselves, they know already if they can't answer some of those open-ended questions around what do you need in order to ensure that this continues to stay? Like, is this solution still relevant to you? Is it still helping you meet your goals? If they can't find the answers to that, then they're quickly able to know across a large portfolio of customers, okay, we're not engaging the right people. So now we need to go try to find our way. Like, should we be talking to someone else and not the partner? Or should we be trying to find our way to a different person, the partner? Who else do I have to work with internally that can help me get to that right person? So yeah, very much agree with the framework. And then playing all of that back regularly to the customer is important, and making sure that whatever they've defined as success, that the CSM is helping to capture that and put that in that success plan to play back to the customer is really key, because without that evidence, everybody forgets. And then the renewal is a little harder without those kind of anecdotes.
And adding to what Tam is saying, like it can be as simple as using a piece of paper and a pen as your tool.
Yes,
Start,
not over complicating, right?
yeah, like starting by writing what customers really want or what they're looking to achieving. Then you reverse engineer it, going through all the way by understanding, okay, so these are the features that they need to have, that they need to enable. This is how we're gonna do that. These are the roadblocks. Simply just reverse engineer it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get
Mm-hmm.
there, right? Um, like,
Oh,
and this was something that I've always been saying to like the companies that I was advising, like whenever we were trying to build the customer success practice, it's like let's not overwhelm ourselves with tools. Let's just focus on what is important to us right now, how we can like why are we building that customer success framework to begin with? What are we looking into achieving? Then what do we think customers are looking to achieving? Then we start from there. Then we can define a very complicated success plan with bells and whistles and everything. So
and adding to that, Iman, is when it comes to like how do you know what to ask? Sometimes people will find like they're just not really getting anywhere. It's hard for them. They can't really answer if you ask them what does success mean to this customer. So there's different approaches, and often it comes again like we come from a background of using Medic, and so what people in our teams have found helpful is going back and being like, where's the pain? Who like what pain is here? And then once we know what the pain is, how do we measure what kind of metrics are used for whatever that issue might be that keeps recurring, or this pain that they just really need to solve. Um, and then from there, then they're able to help the customer articulate that into metrics and play all that back and show them progress on how they're addressing that pain. But the other thing is if they're really struggling, like let's say we've had situations where our customer contacts have changed and they've changed regularly, they just keep churning over. So what some people will do too is just start saying like, just send a survey with like different kinds of questions, and you might get like some hits from different people within the organization. And sometimes that proves to be another interesting way to go about it. Just going back to Iman's point, right? Like, it could be a pen and paper, it could be then we've got people in different parts of EMEA. Sometimes it's like just getting the customer out for a coffee. Like Iman said, a lot of it's conversation, but there will be people too in other parts of Europe, right? That maybe that's not their style and they prefer a formal meeting, and it's different, but it just comes down again to the CSM being able to first get that connection with the customer and then start asking those open questions.
so adding to what you're saying, and I love how we're ping ponging this conversation.
Amazing. Please continue. It's
like
incredible.
it's like we've seen customers that either they don't know an answer to that question, or they've said it many times that even approaching that might be kind of um, like alarming to them. So collaboration is one of the secret ingredients for that. And what do I mean by collaboration in that specific scenario? Customer success is not a one man show. So speaking with different teams within the organization, our organization, like sales, support, professional service, pre-sales, getting that holistic overview, because sometimes you would get these answers without even having to ask the customer. So you would go to the customer by reiterating that we understand these are your objectives, just like doing this quick handshake to understand, to kind of like reconfirm that we're on the right path, right? So getting all these insights, doing that homework as a CSM is important to the success as well.
Yes,
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I was thinking that thought when you were speaking earlier. Because one thing I was going to say, especially for people that have a lot of smaller customers, one of the things I've advised people when they're new is like don't also show up with a blank sheet of paper or a blank slide or a blank success plan. You have to have done your research and your homework already and validated some of the information that you know about the company, about the characters and the people, the buyers who are all the individuals who are involved in bringing that solution into the company. They will have already told somebody why they wanted the solution. To Iman's point, it's a team sport. So the CSM, regardless of how many customers, the size of the customer, they do have to do that background research with other people internally, but also they have to show up looking like they already know the customer. So sometimes in the past, we've had people leave and just inherit a book of customers with really no information. And sometimes what I've told them is just take the last success plan you have with those old goals. You're better off showing up with that. And to Iman's point, validating those points because they get so much more out of the customer when they show up with that content. They will literally correct them and say, no, that's no longer our goal, or that's not how we want to measure this anymore. We don't even track those numbers. But if you show up with nothing, it's a lot harder. You're going to be, it's like pulling teeth. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought that one up, Iman.
I think that there's also the perspective of the cross functional alignment, right? Into having those conversations even before it gets to the customer success with the handover, maybe someone that it did the sales process, someone who did the implementation onboarding part, and the one we're going to talk to may not be the same stakeholders, right? So having that conversation from the beginning, it's already setting everyone, not only us, not only the customer, but everyone in both organizations for success. So I think that being aligned from the beginning, asking those questions, what from the beginning, from sales, who's going to be the stakeholder for the next stage and the next stage. I think that also makes it easy to have that preparation ready. But I wanted to ask, if we imagine a challenge, right? Let's imagine that I'm a new customer success manager in a company, and normally we do know that there are some criterias, some common goals that our customer base always have in mind, right? We have seen that we have use cases. Normally our customer use the product in different ways, but at the end it's the same ideal customer profile somehow or the other. But maybe I'm too new and I don't know this part. What happens if we set a goal that is actually not aligned what the platform can actually deliver? You know what I mean? Maybe I didn't do the right discovery and I thought that the success that we agreed on is actually correct, but then I noticed that it's not. So how to course correct that part?
It goes back to managing expectations,
Yeah.
right? Like the art of saying no without actually saying no. Again, like we position ourselves as trusted advisors to customers. So when customers come to us with questions, the least thing that they would appreciate from us is transparency and honesty. So, and being honest with customers from day one really help fostering a trusted relationship with these customers. So if something is not possible for whatever reason, we don't have to sugarcoat it, right? Instead, we need to reframe it as an opportunity to focus on what is achievable. Like, for example, if a customer is saying, "Can we get this feature by next week?" We've seen that, right? Tab.
Mhm.
So the CEO Sam would come back and say, "Yeah, this is not on our roadmap, right? Or this is not on our current roadmap, right? There is no harm here by conveying that message, by being transparent, and then we can come back and say, okay, so maybe there is a different way to solve your problem, or maybe there is another feature or even another method, because we've seen customers that looking into a specific use case or a specific scenario they're looking into achieving, but they're not really looking into the end goal. Like, for example, I'm a customer and I have this scenario in my head that I want to achieve, where by simply this is how I want to do it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Fine, this is what you have in your head. This is how you used to do it. For example, with our competitor. Fine, I'm not downplaying that, but then we reframe the conversation. We should move away from talking about features, and we shift that to talk about outcomes. Goes back to what are you trying to achieve at the end. Like, don't come and tell me this is how I want to achieve it. I'm not talking about the how. What is your end goal? And then here you go, maybe that's a different approach. Because you're right, like we've done that many times in in our past experience, by simply shifting the focus from the how to the outcome. Because at the end of the day, everybody cares about the outcome, right? Unless they don't have to pay more, of course, but like everybody cares about the outcome. So if we get that right, everybody's happy, customers happy, you're happy, your management, customers leadership, everybody's happy because you were able to achieve that outcome, right?
And and the way, like, often what I observe the team, what they have to do, because they have to do it more often than not, actually, is to ask the customer why. Like, why does that matter to you? And then that helps them further clarify what it is that they really want to achieve. And sometimes if they're still not clear, then it's, well, what's the impact? And again, those two things help them further get closer to what success is. And often by the time we've asked them those questions, it becomes more clear to us what what really it is that the customer needs. And we will be very clear. We will actually say no. We will actually say that's not going to be delivered this quarter, or it'll be delivered, further in the future. But by being able to ask the customer open-ended questions again around, like, well, why is that important, and what's the impact of not having it or having it, then that helps us go back and advocate for them as well in terms of getting them a success. And sometimes customers have had to accept an answer they don't like, but because we dug into that with them and helped manage their expectations openly and directly, we're able to come back to the table with accurate information that also comes from someone, let's say, like in our product organization, who the customer appreciates, and also they get the insight into what we're doing, and it might lead to a deeper conversation around the roadmap. And so there's more of an understanding. It's more of a partnership as opposed to this transactional, like Iman said, I'm coming in and I just want to do it this way, 1, 2, 3. And often it's not always going to work like that for them.
Mm.
Yeah, and sometimes you would find people trying to use a toaster as a microwave, right?
What do you mean?
It's like you have people coming in and saying, it's like, I want the software to do something that is completely outside of its
I
scope.
have an example. We've had customers in the past who expected us to behave like for like to a competitor. That's an example of like a toaster. Maybe it's like a toaster and like a different toaster, but or maybe it's like a microwave and an oven, right? They'll do the same thing, but you have to do use different dials and ways of getting there. Right.
Workarounds, and more workarounds.
Exactly. Workarounds and yeah.
Simply ask me why. Why do you want to do it this way? We keep hitting on why until you reach that outcome that they need. Then we propose a different approach.
It's so interesting because we are actually without saying the word, I will say that we are getting into the strategic side of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see you both confident with that. So would it be strategic? Because if we move from the how to outcomes, and if we move to the feature to outcomes, if we continue to say, why does this matter for you? Like what Tamara said, and why? Isn't this us trying to figure out what the future is going to look like based on what the customer wants?
Yeah, you're right. It's strategic in that it's more like, how do we find middle ground with the customer and ensure they're still being successful, but they also understand where we're at as a product or as a solution? And how do we keep them bought into us? How do we keep them trusting us that we will deliver on what they need in order to be successful? And there will be customers that have to wait longer than they wanted to, but they're willing to do that because the CSM will have uncovered what it is that they really want to achieve and brought the right people to the table as a result. And because of that, the customer has stronger trust uh,
Mm.
in us rather than just kind of, I don't know, trying to appease them and say yes or not being very clear and then nothing really ever getting done. It just delays things. So by being clear and honest, I guess, yes, to use your word, it's a more kind of strategic way to manage the relationship and show the customer. I think the words we've had even from our own customers, right, is that it's a partnership. And that's always the ultimate compliment to hear from the customer when they renew. Because we'll have customers that renew and they may not even have what they want in the product, but they renew because that trust is there, because the right people have come to the table. But that all starts with asking those why questions and really understanding and uncovering and empathizing with that pain that they have and doing that hard work of tracking it. People will show up if they say no to a customer about something or that we can't do something right now. We also track that for them. We keep them up to date on all the deliverables and where we're at or if things have slipped. And that openness and that honesty helps drive the relationship. It's not about giving them the answer they want at the end of the day.
Mm.
Yeah, and to me, I prefer a much simpler word than strategic, which is, and it's equally efficient and impactful, which is value. Like, we're having value conversation, value outcome. We're delivering value. As customers start realizing the value that we're delivering, we're fostering, building, and fostering that trust, that partnership with customers, and and basically all customers are looking for value. If we're not getting value from a certain software, from a certain individual, from a certain team, from a certain company, then I don't need that, right?
Mm.
I'm having strategic conversations, but we're not really delivering value. There's no value. So value is key. Like, being able to offer something and actually show them or help them realize something is important, right?
And that goes back to like what you said earlier. We have both seen in our time plenty of customers that, like, if you track them just with a health score, they might appear green, but actually they're red, and they will attrit in their next renewal. And it comes back to that, they just didn't see value. No one went in and actually defined what success looked like to them. We all just thought, oh, they're high utilization, just leave them, but no one really genuinely engaging with them and finding the right people and the right goals. And yes, so yeah, value is a
You
good
know, as you keep mentioning these examples, I keep remembering these customers.
and the way the dashboards look and how we used to have to
Byron, Tam, and I used to work together in the past. So,
jump on critical account meetings and
Let's open some Pandora boxes here.
hey,
uh,
not live though.
What you're both saying is cold. Like literally, when you both hear what, and everyone listening, like when this is gonna be live, like the words that you are using is so impactful when saying like partnership, collaboration, value conversation, value delivering. I think that those are words that sometimes we just have, but
just
in our
throw around.
arsenal. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we missing anything?
It depends, right? Because it's like we could go on and on, I guess, just talking about this stuff.
I would reiterate on saying customer success is not a one-man show. It's a collective effort of
Mm.
people, cross-functional alignment, different people, whether from within the organization, as vendors, or from within the customer organization, collectively together. It like
And it comes down to knowing the customer and not like just knowing facts about them, right? It's like, do you really know what they need to succeed? Because that brings it back, I guess, to your
exactly. So
like,
it's like imagine building a house where you have the sales team lay the foundation, you have product design the walls, you have support, professional services, install the roofs, you have customer success, do the plumbing, right? If these people are not talking together, imagine how that house would look like.
Mm.
The constant collaboration is key to
Mhm.
the whole collective customer success approach.
I have one more question for both of you because it's time to start wrapping up today's episode. I think this might be a hard because both of you have just delivered so much today that I want to see what else is going to come. But if there was someone who actually needs right now this week, no, actually right now at this moment to start discovering what success means for their customers, what advice would you give them? What tip can they actually implement?
yeah, I think that's a good question actually, because it gives people something to actually just take away. And we have that problem all the time in our teams, right? I mean, like literally, you'll have a one-to-one with someone, and you're like, "Do you know anything about this customer?"
It's never late. It's never wrong to ask why, to ask open-ended questions. If you've done that and still it's not clear, ask more. There's no harm. The harm will be done if you assume, and it becomes a disaster if that's not what the customer is looking for. So asking, making sure that you have a clear picture on what they're looking for is key. Asking these open-ended questions is important. You'll find customers that would not be happy with that. Make sure to do your homework first. Make sure to walk into this meeting. If you don't have an idea or you have done your homework or understanding what has been done in the past, you need to do that. If there was nothing, come up with certain priorities that you've seen similar customers within the industry are doing. Again, you can provide industry knowledge to your customers. So by coming and proposing these priorities or these success criteria, by saying, so other customers within the industry have done that. Is that something that you're looking for, or you're looking for something different? So it's not always that you're asking open-ended questions and you have nothing to offer. You're also sharing your experience, your
Mm.
feedback, what others are doing.
You're advising, basically. Like,
Exactly. So they might even take it. They might say like, yeah, that's a good idea. We haven't thought of that, or
mm,
no, it's differently. But at the end of the day, it will open up things. It will never be a yes or no question.
yeah, love that.
I I think adding like building on that, the advice I would give is, as Ayman said, obviously you've done your homework first, and a word Ayman used earlier too was outcomes. So it's the case for your customers, but it's also the case for yourself. So the way I've like coached people in the past when they start kind of cold with a customer and they need to get in and start figuring stuff out with them is think of like you have to do your prep for the customer, but you got to do your prep for yourself. And your prep for yourself starts with what are the outcomes you need from this first meeting? What do you need to know from that customer?
Mm,
Are they like the right person to be talking to? Because you might go and start asking them questions and they don't know, they don't really care, they just need to use the tool. Fine. Like, it was a good discovery meeting, but now you need to potentially get wider and engage with other people and, use the team around you. But the other thing is part of that prep is at the end of the day, it's a journey and you have to be mentally prepared for that. You're not going to go in and get everything you want potentially in this one meeting either. You'll get some information from them. You'll have to make sure you've planned your way that you're going to get the customer to meet you again and establish a cadence with them. What's that content? How are you going to, again, as Ayman said, give something to them, whether that's updates on issues they have and questions they've had, but also you have to be prepared again. It's like laying down like a cookie crumb trail for the customer. So it's like, what do you want to ask the customer and figure out now in this next meeting? And then you start laying out like, okay, maybe depending on the size of the customer, the criticality of the renewal, do we need to also have like a monthly review or a quarterly review? And how do I keep building that whole plan and that whole kind of narrative with the customer, which is their success plan, and telling that story to them along the way while we're still working on things that they need. So I would say that there's also that internal prep to do. What's the outcome for the meeting? Can you get the customer back meeting you regularly? And how often is that cadence that you need? And what do you need to keep learning from them as you go? Because again, maybe you might find after your first meeting, they're not really the right people to be spending a lot of time with when it comes to trying to define success. So you got to allocate time for that. And you need to know that sooner than later. So you're also not, if you've got a lot of customers, you can't keep wasting your time with people that also, you have to help them, right? But you've got to manage your time and make sure you're making time to get in front of the customers that will give you that information, because that's the only way you can start proving and showing value. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Love that. This has been amazing, both of you. Like the experience, all of that you have brought to everyone today, it's just incredible. I'm just gonna recap some power words that I think that is so important to bring back from our conversation. Like one of the challenges is gonna be that stakeholders are gonna change, and sometimes they also have different goals. So that alignment internally, it's so important. Uh, Collaboration, partnership, listening, open-ended question, but also taking action, being the advisor. Also, the art of saying no, which is a super interesting topic for a future episode, and also from features to the outcomes, or how to the outcomes, right? And asking and the why. And we can be strategic as much as we want, but like Ayman said, we need to deliver that value. We need to land those outcomes. So that is what stays with me today. I hope this has been really helpful for everyone as well. The goal for each episode and each guest that is here is to deliver tactical ideas for you to go and implement as a customer success manager. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, Tamara, for your time, for your energies, for your good vibes and passion. And everyone out there, remember, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.